I'm back. Rodrance for the Black and White Network. Well, we know there are two people here involved in this article that are both very outspoken. Dana White, the UFC president, he's been no holds barred when it comes to his support for the Republican Party and for President Trump. No holds barred. Well, one of the guys that has worked for him for many, many, many years as a UFC commentator is Joe Rogan. Now, of course, Joe Rogan's got a monster podcast where he reaches millions upon millions of people every single week. Some could say every single day. And he has, of course, been outspoken against things like the coronavirus, against certain treatments for the coronavirus. And, of course, he's had some controversial takes. The mainstream media has not liked. And, of course, the lefties have tried to get Joe Rogan canceled, okay? You're not canceling Joe Rogan. In fact, his popularity has immensely increased since all of this started. And he had Dr. Robert Malone on over there. And there's just been a lot of fallout around Joe Rogan. Aaron Rodgers was part of that, the Green Bay Packers quarterback. Well, Dana White is fed up with all of it. And he does not squash his feelings in this at all. Dana White, outkick, fed up with whiny fucking pussies trying to cancel Joe Rogan. Wow. No holds bar from Dana White. We published a column last week diving into why the media and so-called experts hate Joe Rogan so much. It's because Rogan challenges them and exposes them as mediocre and unimpressive. And since COVID didn't kill Rogan, to the woke chagrin, the media wants to eliminate his voice from the discussion. That's a fact. UFC President Dana White gets that. White knows who these people are. He calls them whining effing peas who want to cancel Rogan. I'd say that's an accurate description. Quote, "You're not going to cancel Rogan," White said on the Full Send podcast. The thing is with Rogan, he's a brilliant guy, and he does his homework, and he knows what he's talking about. The media doesn't want Rogan to speak out on issues like COVID and the vaccine. Only people like George Stephanopoulos and Whoopi Goldberg are allowed to do that, according to media consensus. Quote, "Guess what? This is effing America," White goes on. You can have your own opinions about these things, and you can voice them. That's what this effing country was built on. All these whining effing peas that don't like it, too bad. Love it. Dana White is incredible. He doesn't care if you were a liberal or conservative. He built a brand in the UFC that's all for sports fans, and that's why the UFC has been so successful. The UFC's product and business exploded during the coronavirus pandemic. Exploded. Why? Dana was willing to break the narrative and go out and fight during the pandemic. He said, "We're not canceling our fights." There are a few brave voices in American culture, so it's no wonder each member of this small group, Dana White, Joe Rogan, Dave Portnoy, Aaron Rodgers, Dave Chappelle, is skyrocketing in influence. Meanwhile, their critics, the whining effing peas, are screeching for attention. That is Bobby Burack. Look, nobody's going to shut Dana White up. Nobody's going to shut Joe Rogan up. You've got not a prayer in hell. Stop it. It's too bad. So sad. You can add Bill Maher to that list of people they just talked about. And look, some of those are liberals on there. But they're fed up with the standard operating status quo zombie sheep shit. They're done with it. Okay? They're not just going to keep blindly following people. All right? In fact, in a case like Rogan and the pandemic, the virus, he's certainly not going to shut his mouth. He had a doctor on there when all of this started, okay, in March of 2020, I believe. March of 2021, that she was a woman, and she talked about certain things they had seen involving the virus and things that could help you possibly get through the virus, okay? And one of the things she talked about was deficiencies in vitamin D, et cetera, et cetera. Well, I immediately, the same day, listened to that podcast. I went out, bought a ton of vitamin D, and I started to take large amounts of it. Look, YouTube, I'm not giving medical advice here. People, please follow your medical physician's instructions. But myself, I decided to start consuming that. Why? Because they found a direct correlation between severity of illness and deficiencies in vitamin D. Okay? And that came from Rogan's podcast. I got Delta back in September. It actually hit me hard and could have been worse. But I came out the other side. I did. All right? Between vitamins and the infusion and yada, 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 I made it out the other side. And hell, I'm a smoker, okay? So I was at risk for that going bad in theory. All right? I love Joe Rogan. Not only, I'll listen to him talk about just about anything. I like Joe Rogan because he's not only involved in the UFC and he's got that podcast, but he's big into different kinds of other things involving health. He's big into working out. Well, I used to be a guy that, for 15 years, 4 to 5 days a week, powerlifting, bodybuilding, boxing, kickboxing. I ran the gamut of ways to train. And one of the influences there was absolutely Joe Rogan. Okay? Dana White, look, Rogan's this guy. He works for him. Dana White's not going to pull any punches with anybody. By the way, the other day he came out and credited Trump in part to saving the UFC's business because there was a time when the media and certain states equated UFC to human cockfighting. That was an actual thing back in the day. People forget that now that UFC is such a massive brand that there were politicians in states, et cetera, looking to abolish the UFC. Donald Trump stepped in, got on the phone with Dana White and said, you can come fight at my places. And it saved the UFC. It truly did. It truly helped that brand. And Dana White has not forgotten that. Both of these guys are unafraid to speak their mind. We are unafraid to speak our mind on this channel. Peace. I'm out. Till next time.